Good evening. This is the Apple Valley Planning Commission meeting for Wednesday, February 7th, 2024. First item is approval of the agenda. Is there any changes by staff?
Mr. Chair, we do not have any changes for you at this time.
Okay. Is there any changes by commissioners?
Move approval.
Second.
Was motioned by Schindler, seconded by McComb. The next item of business is the approval of consent agenda. The consent agenda items are, excuse me, I need to back up. We didn't vote. Approval of the agenda indicate by saying aye if you agree.
Aye.
All right. Aye. That moves forward. Approval of the consent agenda items. Consent agenda items are considered routine and will be enacted with a single motion without discussion unless a commissioner or citizen requests an item separately considered. It will then be moved to the land use action items for consideration. Can I get a motion?
Move approval of the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion by Schindler, seconded by McComb. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Aye. That moves forward. The next item of business is public hearing. We have one tonight. I will open the public hearing for agenda item 4A. The affidavit of publication for the notice of public hearing is available for inspection in the planning department. Anyone wishing to speak at this public hearing should be sure to fill out the attendance roster with their name and address so that accurate records can be maintained. We will begin the procedure with a brief presentation by city staff, followed by a presentation by the petitioner of the hearing. Upon the conclusion of the presentation, city staff will be asked to comment on the proposal, conformance in pertinent regulations and policies. After that, comments will be taken by the general public. Please come to the podium and speak and address all comments to the questions to the chair. Tonight's presentations with our director, community director, Tim Bennett.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members of the commission, before you tonight is a presentation, or excuse me, an application from West Schwab Tire Center at 15698 English Avenue. Before you tonight is a site plan, excuse me, with a building permit authorization and a conditional use permit. Again, this is for authorization for a new 15,770 square foot auto accessory store with related installation facilities. Also, a conditional use permit per 155.157 subpart D, service bays as an accessory use for the installation of those accessories in conjunction with an auto accessory store, which we'll highlight here quickly. Hopefully most of you are aware of this site. This is a vacant lot just immediately west of the current existing Texas Roadhouse, south of Mr. Car Wash. simply right at the corner of English and 157th. It is zoned RB retail business, which does allow for retail sales of auto accessories except for those installation facilities. Jump down to 155.157 subpart D. Service bays are allowed as part of an auto accessory store with an approved conditional use. Also, they have to have no more than 2 bays, and they have to be screened or oriented as required by the council. The parcel is a legal plat of record. It's Lot 2, Block 1, Orchard Place 2nd, highlighted here on the screen in yellow. Little close-up view, I wanted to just emphasize a different shading of yellow on basically the east half of this lot is encumbered by a drainage and utility easement. Not fully encumbered because you can still develop parts of it except for the buildings or any structural improvements. So what you see highlighted here in the red is the outline of the lot. The unshaded part is where the building improvements are allowed to be on, and nothing in the drainage and utility easement except for parking and drive aisles. The site plan in your packet highlights a building on a 2.72 acre site, disturbed areas of just under 2.36 acres, with 61% impervious, 39% left as pervious. Again, you're looking at, on the screen, the purple or the violet shaded area is the outline of the new building with the parking area on the front or the north area with the access points along English to the west and also access points along the east side. You'll note that there are no access points or drives openings onto 157 as they would not be allowed. The parking plan calls for, we break out any type of multi-purpose use structure of our commercial business into what they're offering. So here they're offering a retail store element and an auto repair. And as you note in the report and up on the screen, you break those out with 53 spaces based upon a lobby retail area of 2,750 square feet equates to 19 spaces needed for the lobby retail area, with 13,000 square feet of service repair, about 25 spaces. If my math is right, that's about 34 spots. And then you get the 9 spots remaining for the employees. The site plan again just shows the layout. Hopefully I can make this work with the, no, that's not working. Again, you're looking at the east side of the building is the lobby, entryway, office area, and the main portion of the building off to the left there or to the west side is where the service area will take place. Utility plan, very basic. Full utilities are available to the site, so this site can be easily accommodated with the standard water, gas, sewer, electric. Also, the grading plan, if you've been out there again, the site is relatively flat and level graded at this point. Not much changes for grades here as well. Our landscape plan was this is the original initial submittal, but we do have an upgraded version that you're going to be seeing later on, which will be presented by the applicant's consultants. Here's a more detailed floor plan that just shows the interior. You'll note the approximately 9 service bays with the racking in the back for the tires and the equipment on the side. Also a small mezzanine level for an upper area for additional storage. The building elevations, we did point these out in our report. This is a precast FabCon type of panel. What we refer to in the industry is typically a tip-up panel. But you'll note the tip-up panels can be enhanced with some type of textural material, either a rake material, a smooth, or sort of a rough aggregate concrete look with different colors. You'll note that most of the building on the left, on my left, or the left side of that building, is the lobby area with the other remaining part, primarily the repair or installation area. Again, the front elevation, the side elevations, I want to point out on this elevation plan, this is the 1 bay east side entry. So the cars will enter in this side and exit off on the west side for the one bay. So there's where the two bay limitations are. You'll note that there is a smaller bay or overhead door window on that, what we refer to as the west elevation. That is not to be used for any type of entry for cars and vehicles. We believe that's just more for the loading and unloading of materials and supplies and probably dead tires. We did, in our research on this West Schwab's store site, we went and looked at some other stores out in Colorado, Utah. We saw some really nice features in their stores out there, and we're encouraging them to, to take a look at these examples or these materials and see if they can incorporate some of these. We really like these glass curtain walls. We think this will make the lobby area a little bit more stand out. Just a little bit more windows, I think, adds more features to the building. I really enjoy these two features on this building with the sloped shed roof lines, the articulated wall spaces, also the CMU wainscoting on the bottom here. So these are items that we would like to see, if possible, for them to incorporate, which they've already presented with us some new plans, but we hope to bring those back later at a future meeting. So for tonight, we're asking you to just give initial consideration of the proposed West Schwab tire facility. The policy, as you are fully aware of, is not to give final action on on the same night of a public hearing. We recommend that you open the public hearing, receive comments, and close the hearing if you so choose. We'd like to also allow the applicant to update the site and building plans and direct staff to bring those back for a second consideration at a future meeting. With that, I'll stand for any questions, or if you prefer, the developer applicant is ready to make a presentation right now, whatever your wishes are for this presentation.
Does anybody have some initial questions they'd like to ask Tim? Go ahead.
Mr. Chair, Mr. Bernetti, the definition of bay,
Yes.
does that just simply include a garage door?
Correct.
Is the definition of bay? Because it looks to me, based on one of the schematics, that there are 8 service areas, but not service bays.
Correct. So if you look at this image here, a typical installation facility for West Schwab has those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bays opening up. Under our ordinance, we only allow 2, so this building could have had 2 of those similar bays. However, in this case, the east side entry point, the west side exit point, when you look at the floor plan, which I'll go to real quick here, so you'll note, see if that works. If I can get this mouse to work. So again, if you, the lobby area, so the cars will enter in here, so at this point, they're inside the building, and then they'll queue them up into their respective bay areas to provide for their tire installation, shocks, or other accessory parts. And they simply back out and exit on the other side. So that, hence the 2 bay opening.
Okay, but 8 service areas.
8 service areas, but only 2
not-
bays.
but not
Yep.
bays,
So
okay.
all the bays basically are just, the bays that are put on this building are simply an exit and an entry.
The only I totally agree. I did a similar search for different tire centers, just a Google search with images and things like that, and I concur with your assessment of it. While the revised drawings that we're going to see, the revised elevations, make some progress in terms of breaking up the ones that you see out west in Colorado. There was a Sacramento, California store. I'm not sure which ones that you had up on your drawings, but
Yep.
or your pictures, but I think those designs, those fit so much better with the aesthetics, the architectural aesthetics of that new development. The current proposal, and I mean no disrespect to the architects, is kind of a sort of more of a step backwards, in my opinion, compared to the overall development there. When you look at, even Texas Roadhouse has variations with roof lines and things like that, but when you look at Newt's, when you look at Punch Pizza, even when you look at the Lunds and Byerly's building, which is a huge big box space,
Yep.
but they've done a really nice job with the entrances with that 2-story volume glass to make it a much more aesthetically pleasing, in my opinion, frontage. And because of the size of the service area with the 8 service areas, I mean, there's definitely a lot of wall space to cover. I think they've made a lot of progress between what was submitted with the packet and then the proposal or the revised drawings. But I concur wholeheartedly with you that the other structures in California and Utah and Colorado, the ones that I saw with that a little bit more glass, look so much better. And even I don't know which one of if it was the first page or the second page where the service areas had windows. It just, again, I like, you just look through these and then the next one, maybe not what, yeah, this one, the top one there, where the service areas, it just fits. I like the you know, I don't know what you call kind of the flat brick kind of frontage. That seems to be an architectural feature. Not that every building in the development has to look the same, but that's, you see that in the other buildings where Newt's is, where Punch is, and but I do like the top one here where you're, again, I like the glass curtains, I think is what you call those wall features, but I also like this way where the roof lines are broken up a little bit, then you also have what look to be windows instead of just concrete or whatever panels.
Yeah. Commissioner Mahold, you're making some good observations, and this is what, you know, we've already started the development of this very critical, important area of that east side of our community, and especially with the reclamation efforts in the gravel pit area. So we've already, you know, seen some great product happening out there. We want to make sure we encourage that design out there. Now, because we really don't have any set design standards for that area, we pretty much have them set for our downtown district. This is not downtown. But that's not to say that we still like to see some, you know, a little bit more of a consistent look and feel aesthetically and architecturally out there. So these are only suggestions. We're not saying, hey, Les Schwab, take this building and make it here. But we'd like to see if they could imprint some of these design features into this building as much as possible. We're not saying that the precast FabCon tip-up panels are wrong or not allowed. We just like to see a little bit more of an and again, the articulation, the roof extensions that you see in this building, those are awesome. And you're going to see some of that, those updated features from the consultant. And we'd like to have you encourage them if you so choose, if that's the wishes of this planning commission. That's your role, is to provide for that input and that guidance if you so choose. So it's a good observation.
Thank you. And thank you very much, because I'm just only speaking for myself. I just think the proposed design, even as amended, is something that we might have seen 15 years ago or 20 years ago.
Yep.
But this newer development, I just think there's a lot more architecturally and aesthetically pleasing developments and or styles. I don't know what, but it just, this is going back to more. It's not cinder block, but it has all of the kind of that. Just anyway, that's just one man's opinion.
And this is a unique building for Les Schwab. I'll tell you that this is probably one of their first that they had to do a 2-door design where it's all enter in, exit out, because you'll see most of their buildings look like the one up on top here where there are multiple bays. The benefit of having this 2-bay opening is all the, you know, you assume they're going to have some ratchet or air guns putting the equipment on, and that can be a little bit discernible and loud outside the building. And if we're looking at doing some housing potentially in that area, or just any other development in that area, it's really, I think, a proof positive that we're going to have some sound attenuation by just the way they're laying this building out. So all the work will happen inside, also in the south side of the building. So we think that's a great thing, a great positive aspect of this development if it occurs.
Even with that top one, those are, as you look closer, they are garage doors. They are bays, but because of the colors, they blend in well.
That looks real nice. I agree.
Even though they have that similar dark base on the revised designs, it's almost there. I mean, it's in many respects, it's almost there. They do kind of show. I'm not sure if those were going to be faux windows or if they were going to be see-through windows similar to the garage door windows, but I think it's almost, it's closer to that with the revised drawing. But again, I agree with your emphasis on the designs that have been put forward in other locations.
Yeah, Commissioners, Mr. Chair, members of the Commission, so what you're seeing up here, these really aren't full windows. They could potentially be, but these are more of a decorative screen. I believe they mentioned in a phone conversation yesterday that they weren't looking to make these into a live screen or like an area for plants or vines to grow up in, but not to say that that could happen, but there's some features back here that with this massing of this wall and this, you're looking at this side from 157th Street. I mean, it probably could use a little bit more features in there to just break up that that whole wall feature there. And you know, because I'm not a student of architecture, I don't want to dictate to an architect how to design their buildings, but you know, I think we have the right to say what we'd like to see here or some ideas. I think they're getting there. And I think what you're going to see tonight from the consultant are some great ideas. And I think hopefully by the next time we bring back something, you'll be pleased by what you see.
I agree. And I also think too, because I think it's come up recently in another, one of the last couple of meetings, there was a building that had a coffee shop on one side and the mattress store on the other. And the one tenant was concerned about blocking the advertisements that were in the faux
window,
whatever. And you know, and again, I can understand why you would want to advertise your tire sales and things like that. But if those faux windows become sort of 12 by 12 billboards for tire sales, you know, that I don't know that that's the aesthetic look that development needs. No. I mean, those are just my concerns. I think that a lot of care and a lot of attention and a lot of time has gone into that new development, which you say, and I agree with, is there's a huge amount of potential there, and I just want to make sure we're continuing to put buildings in there that fit with the aesthetics that have been established. At least that's. Thank you.
I would agree. Thank you, Phil.
Tim, the only, I was going to ask you, one thing you didn't talk about were the drive entry points.
Yes, thank you. So, because we are, coincidentally, we did receive a secondary application for that sketch plan, which you're going to see right after this conversation. We had talked about these potential exit points along English Avenue. Now, English Avenue, some of you may or may not be aware that English Avenue is a completely private driveway. It's owned by the developers or the owners of the site. We felt best if we could just take out both of these and maybe move it to the center point of this curved section. And what you saw in the report was and this was just a happen chance when I wrote the report, and I thought I was Nostradamus, but I actually aligned the two exit point or entry points from the proposed apartment deal to the other side with the one over here. That was happy accident. I'm not that bright when I do this stuff. But I just want to make sure that if there was an opportunity to eliminate exit points, we also like to make sure that if there's any conflict with other entry points or exit points on the roadway, it's better that they line up across from each other. That's just almost traffic engineers would support that. Over here, we're looking at, these are lining up perfectly with what's existing on the other side for the development over here, the Texas Roadhouse. You're also going to see in the upcoming presentation those sidewalks and those crosswalks that we had asked for, and also that little lane restrictor or bump out here as well. So again, looking for ideas or a recommendation. If you'd like to see that one access point, that is something that you can ask for or recommend.
I think that would be consistent of what we've done in commercial properties. Consistently when we're
Yes.
doing these, those cross points, and I think going from 2 to the 1 is appropriate in this case. The other thing, is there any discussion about the trash container, where it's currently at,
So
and materials?
right now, we'd prefer to see all trash containers or enclosures try to match the exterior with the building.
Correct.
So we think we can still work with them. I don't lose too much sleep over the look of appearance of a trash enclosure, but it's still important, especially when it's out in the front here. We want to make sure that that facility is also not overburdened or over taxed with old tires, dead tires. We also are seeing is what we don't want to see or encourage are the introduction of those Connex boxes or the cargo boxes that you typically are seeing on some of these tire installation facilities or just repair shops throughout the area, where they're throwing everything in there and then, they're easy to lock up and load up when they're all done. We don't want to encourage that. So we anticipate that the reason they have this little entryway here was that all the dead or old tires would be stored inside and they'd be loaded up, unloaded as needed through that little door. So the trash enclosure, again, there are some details or specifics, design specifics in the site plan. Happy to make sure that we encourage that they look consistent with the building once we know the architectural elements.
Again, that's just something that we're very consistent with our
Yep.
commercial properties and using
we should
similar
be here, too.
materials. And then the secondary question I had, is that the most appropriate spot being in front of the building to put a trash enclosure? Is there a secondary option that would be less intrusive or noticeable?
As we indicated, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, because this site is somewhat restricted by the drainage utility easement, we really can't have any of that structural material above that easement area. So pretty much they're focused on this west side of the lot. If there are other areas that they can put that enclosure, I'll work with them and see if they have other options.
That's something that could be visited.
Sure.
And then last and finally, before we ask them to come up, and this is not really part of our discussion, I noticed, but they're, with all their drawings and renderings they're doing, that they're adding the alignment brakes and shocks, which I don't think fits in with our signage. But I know that comes under a separate application, so
Correct.
I'm just bringing that forward, that
Yep.
to keep that in mind as they're going through with their design process, that that's something that's not going to fit, so.
Yep.
Anybody else have a question before I bring the petitioner up? Go ahead.
You can keep it back on that
Oh, I'm
one,
sorry.
if that's okay. That's okay. I'm just curious about so the single entrance in the middle, how would that then work? Like just where the cars are coming in and out? Because the other side makes sense, you're coming in and out in between the parking.
Correct. So assuming that this area here is still left open for, adequate two-lane traffic, this would be a wider access point, probably about the same width as here, where, cars could easily enter left or right, or come in left, either northbound or southbound along English. So at this junction of the curve here is where I'd like to see the cars, and then the cars can easily, hopefully, negotiate into their parking spaces or take around, or turn left if they're coming in and still access up here. Ideally, this area along the front of the building is probably going to be more for the customers that are stopping in. And ideally, these will probably be reserved for the employees of the site.
Thank you.
Okay.
Applicant would like to come, go ahead.
Oh, thank you. Mr. Chair, what is the speed limit on English?
Is it 30? It's probably a local road system, so it's probably limited to a 30 mile per hour.
Okay, yeah, I was just, because the only concern is, I like the idea of the single entrance, but the only concern I have is on the curve. And, you know, as the development continues, there will, I'm sure, be more traffic, and making a left turn might become more difficult if there's more traffic coming from the right, and then the traffic coming from the south will get there pretty quickly. So
That's a good point. With that, I will defer to the applicant's consultants if you wish.
Please.
Good evening. My name is Mark Roweeder. I'm a civil engineer with KLG Engineering, and I'm here representing Les Schwab Tires Center. I appreciate the opportunity to present this project to you. And to get started, I'd like to just start with, I think I can get this right. There we go. Just a brief introduction of who is Les Schwab, what do they do. Basically, the company was founded in 1952, Central Oregon. They have over 500 stores now in 10 mostly western states. They have 8,500 plus employees. They are expanding North and South Dakota and now into Minnesota. And they have one under construction in Moorhead, and this could be the next one here in Minnesota. The Les Schwab they're quite proud of, once they go into a community, they're very active with that community. As you see, in 2022, they almost into $6 million in donations in the local community. And they also spend over nearly $19 million in media, local media. And every year they have a toy and food drive throughout all their stores. So they're very active within the community. They become, integrated with the community. So specifically, we kind of already started talking about what they do. The top four are really about 90% of what business Les Schwab does. Tires, repairs of tires, balancing, and wheels. The next set of services really depend on the franchisee and what they offer. They can do some of those or all of those. Brakes, shock struts, alignments, batteries. Depends on how they do. But the bulk of what they do, they sell tires and they put tires on vehicles. So I'd like to go into kind of discussion we've already started talking about here on some of the changes that we made based on the comments we received from Tim and the staff. And as you pointed out, we do have the sidewalks all the way around the facility now, and a sidewalk connecting the building to the sidewalks on the side with the crosswalks to the other sidewalks within the development. And he did point out that the bump out there to try to alleviate or hopefully solve the problem of folks trying to go back down that one way out to 57th Street. We also have, I know in the review, we do have, it's standard to have bike racks within the facility, so there'll be a bike rack there. The trash enclosure, it's there, as Tim mentioned, that there is a lot of encumbrance on the facility or on the site itself, and that was the one place that seemed to make the most sense, both where we could put it with the easements and easy to get in and out of the trucks to actually dump out the trash container. It's only for general trash. All the tires that are used tires are going to be stored inside the building. And that kind of gets into a little bit of the operations. So average about once a week, a truck will arrive to the site and they will unload the new tires, and then they'll take the old tires out and recycle those. And I'm not sure if you can see, I got a little thing here. I don't know if you want to look in the back here. What we're proposing to do is come off 57th Street here and come up English with the trucks. So the trucks will come up in that gray area there. The trucks will pull up and then back into that western edge. That's where they'll park and they'll unload and load the tires in there. So we haven't gone to the next step of, okay, I agree that the best spot for that would be to have a one access across from the other potential access for the apartments. We just need to run the auto turn basically to see if we can get that truck in there and back out and out again, out 57th and going north. So that's kind of why you see a large approach there, wide approach going in and out, is to get that truck in and out of the site. Again, it's about once a week that the truck comes in and does that work. As you pointed out, all the work will be done inside the building, coming in from the east and going out the west. The operation is just like any other tires discount. It's there for the day. People come in, they can have walk-ins or they have appointments, but the idea is that the tires and anything else that's done is done that day and the cars are gone. So from 8 to 5 o'clock, Monday through Saturday is the general operating hours. They're closed on Sunday. There shouldn't be any vehicles out there unless somebody drops off a car and just for some reason doesn't come back and pick up the car that night. So they'll basically be empty after it closes. The next one here is the landscaping. We've added some more plants to that southern part of the building that's facing 157th. Added a few more trees and some shrubs and grasses, and a little bit more into the parking lot islands. And again, we can this is kind of fluid. We're just kind of addressing some of the issues that were brought up in the initial review. And we've taken out we've got now a approved list of species for the plants in that area. I know there was one issue there about a potential plant that's probably a non-native or invasive species. And this is something you guys have with you right now. It's kind of an updated, we're talking about the elevations here. And I'd like to just describe a little bit more, and pardon me for reading this, I'm not an architect. I'm a civil engineer. So what I wanted to point out is in that showroom area, it's the gray area and the dark gray area, that's a showroom. The proposal there is that those panels would be smooth, but there'd be different colors in that section. As we move over to the bulk of the building itself, the lower section of that kind of dark gray on the bottom would have an exposed aggregate finish, but there'd be cast horizontal relief or reveal patterns that are basically 4 inches on center going across. So there's not only the color difference, but also textural difference on that one. As we get into that white area, it's actually exposed aggregate on there, so it's got that kind of rough feel to it on that section. And on the top, and basically on that kind of reddish to brown area, they're proposing a kind of a cast of vertical random rake pattern on that. So you've got the color again and the texture differences on that area. And those panels that we talked about on the sides of the building, they are basically metal accent panels, not windows itself. And something I'd like to point out is that those photos from Colorado and Utah and California, those are mostly all CMU or the block construction. What we're running into here in Minnesota is that we're having a difficult time finding masonries to build that type. So we've gone to, or Les Schwab's going to these tilt-up precast buildings, and it's their first time doing this. So it's kind of it's a process to try to figure out what they can and can't do with those tip-up panels. So as we get suggestions, recommendations from you. We'll try to address those and see what we can do with those tip-up panels. But again, these are really new to Les Schwab. They haven't built these yet, these tip-up precasts. So what we can and can't do on there is what they're trying to figure out right now. But I'll bring back your discussions already about what you'd like to see. Kind of, it sounds like more of a breaking those up so it doesn't look like another Amazon Prime service center when you see those big precast. So I'll bring that to them, and we'll try to again adjust the look of those buildings to fit more of the character of the neighborhood. And that's pretty much what I have tonight for you to present, and I'm welcome to answer any questions. I just see on this last one, if you see the bottom left-hand corner of that on the second side, A2-2, is the enclosure that we're proposing around the trash enclosure. It's basically aluminum. You can have different colors on that, but it's basically it's solid all the way around, and it would block out that, at least on three sides, except for the door, the trash enclosure from visible being out.
Commissioners, questions? Go ahead.
Mr. Chair, just one observation. I think it was your first or second slide
Yep.
that had the, as part of your introduction. Again, that's another very aesthetically pleasing building, and whether I know you were talking about the block, and I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
It was if you look one back, you just had it there with the one more. There you go. Where again, there's some more glass, more windows. I think the awning, if you will, is and then I like the design of the window. Again, it's not a bay, it's not a door, but you've got the base color, which you have in the new design, but it's to me anyway. And again, it's just one person's opinion. I find that more aesthetically pleasing, and I think the opening up of the retail area with the glasses, whether it's this size or some of the other ones that look to be more like
Higher up.
higher up. I just think that type of look fits better, and this obviously looks like more of a masonry design.
Yep.
Compared to the flip up panels. But anyway, one person's opinion.
Oh, thank you.
I have a couple of questions. One is just as we've been discussing the design and just to stress the importance of a four-side or a balanced design to the building. What's on the front, it's on the back, it's on the side. Do you have any pictures or examples of these panels that you're discussing here that look like faux windows?
I don't have a specific one. I don't have a close-up of that at all. I don't have that with me.
Because I'm not a real fan of going with faux windows on things. If you're going to put windows in, put the windows in and do it. Otherwise, they look like faux windows. And that's the big thing that I'm seeing right now that's already been expressed, and I'm not going to go on to that more, is just to stress the facts of that's something that we're very proud of. In Apple Valley here is the idea of four-sided balanced architecture on commercial buildings, and I think we've successfully done that here in the community.
Yep.
And if you look at this development, look at the would be the north end, you look at the Lunds Byerly building for an example there, that you can take some cues how they've done various materials in the construction of that and how that ends up working out. The other comment is on the trash enclosure that I think again, from my perspective, as long as I've been doing this some 15 years, I don't think we've ever done anything but materials that go with the building itself and not doing another group of materials there. And that's kind of my question too, is the placement of that and the difficulty of having that work out correctly or in the right manner. So is there a better place or more of a compromise of a location to put that trash enclosure and still have that access that you need to it in to accommodate some of our concerns?
Sure.
And I think, we're kind of off to a good start with some of the changes. You've already, addressed looking at the connection points, which is another huge thing with walkability within our neighborhood, and especially just behind your building, this building is going to be is the main, one part of the main trailway system that we have in going from south to north within the metro area here. And so that's all important components to this. So at this point, I think that's the kind of the key thing I have to bring to your attention. So, is there any other thoughts? Go ahead.
Mr. Chair, I think I just basically just want to echo what is being said, that if there's a way to make these real windows, that would be not only from the outside, but even from the inside. I'm looking at that and thinking of being somebody who's working in there, and there's like almost no way to see outside, so I basically am just trying to echo what they're saying and agree with what they have been saying. So.
In the last meeting we had with the architects on this, they were going to look into specifically putting in maybe not big windows in the back, but at least some across the top that could act. And again, it's going back to the precast manufacturer and seeing where can we put them, where would it still be structurally sound. So next time you come through, hopefully we'll have some more variety of windows and maybe more around the building itself.
Sure. Thank you.
Look forward to seeing that.
Yeah, so am I. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Chair, members of the commission, this is a public hearing, so if you'd like to invite anybody else to make any public comments, this would be the perfect time to do that too.
Is there anybody from the public here that'd like to comment on current discussion?
So your options are you can close the public hearing, or you can table it to the future meeting if you wish. But for now, we would like you to just allow us or direct staff. We're very comfortable. We can work with, Mark is a real nice, easy guy. I can work with the guy. And we had a real good dialogue the other night with their architects and their project managers out west. So we think we can bring back a great product for you, and you'll be proud of. As I mentioned, I thought we were going to be the first in the state. I don't count Moorhead as really Minnesota. I'm going to give them to North Dakota. But I think for our benefit, for Apple Valley, I think we want to make this store, the facility, a nice place to go. It's a nice place to look at. Marquee. We want it to be really outstanding looking in that because it's got that high visibility. We want to encourage, we're going to be encouraging all these people to come here. We got some great things coming up in this area. Got some great ideas. You're going to see one in a few seconds here. So we're excited, and we want this to be a really great addition to the community. And we still want to welcome them and not feel like they're being picked on at all, but we're going to work with them. And we're going to, like I said, I'm very confident with my staff and with engineering that we'll bring back a great site plan and building plans for you at the next meeting, whether it's at this upcoming second meeting in February or maybe one of the first meetings in March is our goal.
With all the discussion tonight, with especially from the architectural perspective, would that warrant us to leave the public hearing open to allow for those changes to come forward versus closing it and then seeing what materializes from that?
Mr. Chair, that's your decision.
Okay.
You can continue the public hearing or leave it open till the next meeting.
Okay. Thank you for your guidance on that. What is the pleasure of the commission that
problem, though, that we need to leave the public hearing open.
Okay. Anything else? All right. With that, I will close if there's no further comments, I will close the public hearing. It is the policy of the Planning Commission not to act on an item on the same night as its public hearing. The Planning Commission will weigh all comments and information received tonight in its deliberation at the future meetings. This item will continue to appear on further Planning Commission agendas until a recommendation on the petition can be forwarded to the City Council.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. Next item of business, there's no land use items, number 5. The next item is other business, which is item 6.8, Orchard Place Multifamily Sketch Plan, and that's Kathy Bodmore's.
Yeah, good evening, Mr. Chair and Planning Commission members. The project proposer for this request is Trident Development LLC. They and the property owner, Rockport LLC, have submitted a sketch plan for some feedback from the Planning Commission for a 4-story, 128-unit apartment building. To do that on the lot that they are looking at, they would need a series of actions taken. Comprehensive plan amendment to amend the property from guidance of commercial to high density. A rezoning of the property from RB to a high-density residential designation. Third, subdivision by preliminary plat to create an approximately 5-acre parcel. And then last, site plan review building permit authorization for the building. So to give you a little introduction of what the project would entail if they were to move forward, basically, the site is immediately west of Schwab Tire Center, what we were just looking at. So on the northwest corner now of 157th and English Avenue. The property is part of Outlot D, which overall is a 16.2 acre parcel. Basically, they would split off the southern approximately 5 acres for this development. The comprehensive plan guides the site for commercial development, so that would need to be re-guided to allow for an apartment. And similarly, the site is currently zoned retail business, RB. It would also need to be rezoned in order to allow for an apartment. The M8 zoning district is our standard high-density multiple family zoning designation. It would allow for a 4-story building with a density above 24 units an acre. However, only adjacent to or within the central business district, which is the city's downtown area. So the petitioner would need to either request a planned development rezoning of the property to allow for that 4 stories, or bring the height of the building down a story to meet that requirement. So that's just something they'll need to explore as part of their planning process. So the apartment building is shown to be located in kind of a north-south configuration. Main entrance to the building is on the east side with parking to the east. The west side would be adjacent to the trail system that was mentioned, so the North Creek Greenway Regional Trail. And then plus it would abut a trailhead feature for Orchard Place. So that is currently or part in the plans for construction to create kind of a gathering space for the trail. The site is showing a couple of access connections to English Avenue. They're showing 3 actually, 1, 2, and 3, kind of a half connection there. And then on the north side, one of the things that staff has seen and has pointed out as kind of a concern is they're currently showing just wide open shared parking between this lot and presumably commercial development to the north. Although there may be a thought of, gosh, this is a mixed use area, maybe we're trying to create mixed uses. Staff has a real concern that there should be a distinction between the apartment site and any commercial to the north or to the east, just because parking will be in high demand, and either a popular restaurant or a fun party at the apartment building could impact either property. So we just want to make sure that that's addressed. On the west side of the building, there are outdoor community spaces shown, a dog run, a play court area, a tot lot, which are great amenities for an apartment development, so that'll be important. Staff is a little bit concerned, and this will be something that'll have to be refined as part of the design process, making sure that there's distinction or separation between the public spaces, the trail, the trailhead, and the private features, so the private apartment. What I mean by that is trail users, we don't want trail users thinking that the tot lot's available to them. When it's not, it's a private piece of the apartment. So just some design work will be needed there. The petitioner is showing underground parking, so at 1 space per unit, so 128 underground parking spaces. The surface parking spaces is a little bit short of what we would normally require, so this is something that we do want to look at in more detail. Parking demand has become a concern at apartment buildings throughout the city. So this is something that we will want to look at closely, and we'll work with the petitioner on that. So this is just a close-up of the site, again, kind of the apartment building, and then the outdoor features on the west side. And then seeing that kind of open connection with the parking lot to the north, we just want to kind of cue in that we would like more distinction there. This is from the plan for the gathering area that's planned. So it'll be a landscaped area, benches, trailhead feature, mapping, that kind of thing. So it'll be a nice spot for that area. And just a reminder that the Orchard Place Trailhead feature is part of the North Creek Greenway. So the connection will go all the way through the development. Again, bike rack and trail, trail mapping and benches and so forth. So quite a nice area, and we're excited to see development in the area to take advantage of that. So in fairness to the developer, they've submitted a sketch plan, which is just the beginning of the process. So we know there's further refinement coming along. But we wanted to kind of start high level some of the discussion points for the petitioner as they move forward. The first question, is multiple family residential appropriate for the site? Right now it's guided for commercial, but as commercial has been evolving, the commercial marketplace, it was envisioned to be a big shopping center, big box. That has been kind of scaled back a little bit, so kind of a question of what's appropriate, what's the best use for this area. A question or concern or discussion point about compatibility between the apartments and auto uses next door. So the Les Schwab currently under review, and then plus the car wash. Just making sure that there's good buffering, that there won't be conflicts for the apartment building. The north side shared parking lot, already spoke to that. How will the proposed development fit in with future development to the north and highlight the trail feature and pedestrian connections? So one of the concerns is just making sure that however the development is set up, that it doesn't take away from the trailhead feature, it doesn't cut off the trailhead feature. So it's gonna take a little bit of master planning to work those details out, but that's something that we will be looking for. Clear distinction needed between the public spaces and private spaces. Correct zoning for the project needs to be identified, so we'll work with the developer on that. Availability of parking, cross-parking, and cross-access easements. As I mentioned, the site is about 49 surface spaces short of what we would require under our standard old-fashioned suburban parking requirement, which is 2.5 total spaces per unit. So we'll just have to visit that and review that in more detail. And then last, the developer will need to evaluate the garage floor elevation in relation to the nearby ponding area. That was something that our city engineer flagged as. Make sure they keep that in mind because that could lead to flooding. So with that, Mr. Chair, kind of a high-level, quick overview of what they have brought forward. They do have slides to present to the Planning Commission, so I could stand for questions or step aside and let them present their ideas.
Does anybody have questions for Kathy at this time?
Yes, just one quick question, if I could, please, Kathy.
Sure.
You had mentioned 4-story apartments and the stipulation that it's adjacent to the city or city center. Would this be a first for Apple Valley? Should this move forward at a 4-story that is not adjacent to the city?
No, where we have other 4-story, we have Applewood Point on which is a senior cooperative.
Okay.
That's a 4-story building. So they dealt with that through a PD zoning.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Mr. Chair, Kathy, I think I do like the discussion items, the issues and discussion items. I think that covers a good range of issues and concerns with this development. This is more of a rhetorical question. I don't know, but because as I'm sitting here, I'm not thinking of them. But I know in the past when we've been talking about different issues and ideas for commercial and retail development, oftentimes those are the propriety of them is dependent on distance from residential housing. And again, off the top of my head, no specific ones are coming to mind. But here we've got an area that was designed for commercial and retail development, and now we're bringing residential into it. And so my concern is with those certain considerations about what uses can be made of commercial and retail properties, how, if at all, will placing a multifamily housing development impair future development? How, if at all, would it impair existing commercial retail buildings in terms of potential associated or future uses? So again, more of a rhetorical question, but that's we've got a plan for this area that contemplates commercial and retail development on the eastern block. There's a nice buffer to the west with the trail and the ponds between the commercial development and the residential. And now this is just putting the residential that much, right in the middle. Well, not quite in the middle, but that much closer to the commercial. And so those are concerns that I have, but I think they fit in your broad categories of the issues for discussion.
If I could just respond a little bit, Mr. Chair, one of the things about the retail market is rooftops provide energy and demand for retail. So additional housing could be a benefit to the area. But I think what Commissioner is bringing up is it's a design. It needs to be properly designed. I think you're right. We do see more and more of this with the mixed use, higher density housing next to retail or near retail. So it needs to be done well and done right. But yeah, I think it could work.
Mr. Chair, Kathy, I'm again echoing some of the things, but some of the things that came to my mind were, and I don't know how close they are, so this might be a moot point, but just in terms of hours or hours allowed to be on the patio this close to a residential area for like Texas Roadhouse or whatever restaurants are right over there. So that would be one of my biggest concerns is, are we going to be impacting existing businesses who weren't expecting to have then restrictions placed on them because of a residential area close by. So that's that would be one thing that I feel like we would need to look at carefully.
Okay. Yeah, that's a very fair question.
I guess the first, Kathy, I had a couple of questions. The first thing that kind of came to mind was when I first looked at this, and as you've been talking, is how this is addressed or how this fits into our long-term plan in terms of adding additional residential versus the retail. You've kind of hinted on that a little bit. That I'm assuming, going to make assumption that these are just market rate type of an apartment development that we're looking at here.
That's our understanding.
And it's kind of intriguing with the idea of doing this, but like you said, I think it's going to take some work to do it right. And just the idea of having to separate the parking lot out, I think, is to make the apartment that part of their area, and then and not encroach into the commercial and vice versa. That there's a separation there, and I think there's a benefit of having it next to the trailway system again, if it's done correctly. As far as to the west of this, there's the townhomes. So this would be even higher in elevation than what we're already seeing just to the west on the other side of the water holding pond.
That would be something interesting to explore.
Yeah.
And verify.
Yeah, but that means that
Yeah.
you have that already established there. Is this going to throw that balance off within that area?
Yeah. Those townhouses are quite tall. So it would be worthwhile asking the question and getting the information.
Or is this a product that's better suited for the north end of the development where you don't have like the tire center, the car wash, and the condensed, or the restaurants that are there, and with the traffic and the noise that comes from having restaurants. But like you said, this has become this mixed, using it as a mixed use idea is kind of the concept that you're going after. So I can kind of see it both ways. So
Yeah. Okay.
Dave?
Mr. Chair, Kathy, I'd prefer that this would stay in the retail business classification. I think that and everything that's been brought up is kind of the same things I'm thinking. The parking, I don't think you just want the parking lots combining. I don't know. I mean, it really just means like, well, what's this apartment doing in the middle of all this commercial and retail? You know what I mean? And if the plan is on the north side, that's still looking like it's going to go the commercial of retail type route. I don't know. I mean, you have such a perfect delineation of the pathway and the water to separate the commercial from residential. There's not a lot. This is it for this whole kind of segment of the city of what we're going to have for these types of uses. So it would really be hard for me to feel good about that. I also am concerned about all the amenities on the trail side of the building. Someone walking their dog, oh, there's a dog. Yeah, I mean,
Right.
that's what people do.
Right.
unless there's a real way to know that, and maybe it's not as hard as it sounds. But I would have some concerns about that. And just the uses, the car wash and I get it, we just found out, that the tire center is going to be enclosed. They're not going to have doors all open with each of the stalls where the noise is going to become a real issue. But it is definitely in close proximity to the people that live in that southern part of that building. So, it's just one of those things that my instinct says it's not a good fit. But I'm willing to talk through it and see where we come with it. But that's my initial instinct is I'd rather save this space for those appropriate uses when there's really isn't anything else in this development that's going to be allowed to have those uses. And, we're going to be putting in a lot of housing that's going to depend on those little retail areas. So that's just my thoughts right now.
Sure. Okay.
Petitioner?
Oh, I'm gonna have troubles controlling this. Can I do it with the mouse?
Yep.
You can.
Okay. All right. Good evening. I'm Chris Moe with HJ Development, the master developer for Orchard Place. Happy New Year to y'all. It's good to be back here after, I think probably this is our 5th year that we've been working on various projects within Orchard Place. So just to kind of give a little bit of a backstory on how we've gotten to where we are here today and wanting for you all to consider or discuss the opportunity to have what would be a Class A multi-family development be part of the project. So back in, call it 2019, when we first started working on the project, the retail landscape was a little bit different than it is today. There was a lot of still larger box type development that was happening, and that's what you really originally saw when we came forward and presented plans for what we wanted to do kind of with the entire 40-acre piece south of 155th Street. And we ended up doing some of the smaller stuff out on Pilot Knob first because we were having trouble getting traction with some of the bigger stuff behind it. That problem has really not gone away. The bigger box stuff is just really not happening. If you look around, the economics of it just don't make sense from a new construction standpoint. The stuff that you're seeing of those sort of kind of bigger box type users happening is retrofits of other existing buildings. So if you think of like Shopcos or empty stuff like you would see, that's some of the stuff that's built at 42 and Cedar in your community here already that you've seen some businesses come in and out of and things turn over. So that's really been not just here in Apple Valley, but just anywhere throughout the Twin Cities and really the country, what's been going on. There has not been a lot of this kind of what would be considered quote unquote power centers where you have 10, 20, 30,000 square foot retailers out there happening. I think the last one of those that we did was in 2018, and we haven't done one since. And it's really just because the math doesn't work for it. We're not apartment developers. That isn't what we do day in and day out. Ideally, we'd like to build all kinds of retail here, but the market just isn't supporting that at this point in time. So we're really looking at it going, well,
what else can we do that would really complement the retail we have and also generate more demand for the additional, call it 10 acres that we would have after this to add more retail to it. Just the kind of concept of having mixed use, I think, has been more prevalent here in the Twin Cities, and you've seen it successfully happen in other retail districts, and the apartment stuff has been more and more prevalent as part of these retail shopping center districts. And some of it's redevelopment, this is new development. So you're, starting to see portions of shopping centers that are no longer relevant being repurposed for multifamily. Here's a little bit different because we have raw land, but we do feel that it would really help create additional demand for us to continue to add on to the retail that we have done so far. And again, we'd probably have around 10 acres, which may not seem like a lot, but when you're trying to build it out 1 acre at a time with smaller retail things, it is still quite a bit. You probably remember we came back in, I think it was probably, Kathy, was it last year that we got lot 5 and 6 approved, or the year before? I think it was the small retail strips immediately west of Lunds and Byerly's.
Yeah, that was
2021. So we tried to build those in 2021, have been trying to build them ever since, and we can't get the tenants for them in order to build it. So I think our approvals there have expired. We still would like to build retail there, so part of the discussion and the questions that you all had, which were many good questions, was, well, should the south end stay retail and maybe the north end be the apartments? I personally believe, and which is why we've directed the site plan like you see it, that we're gonna have more success doing retail in the north because it sits in Lunds and Byerly's parking lot. So what drives traffic for retailers is trip counts. And where you're gonna get the most trip counts out of anything there is going to be the grocery store. People come there multiple times a week to get groceries, and so that's when tenants are looking at going in a retail development, that is kind of the A space, if you will, the stuff that's in closest proximity to the grocery store. So we could look at, moving the apartment up north and flipping it, but I don't know that that's gonna get us more retail sooner than later. It might help to kind of bring up that issues list, and we could kind of talk through those if we could. And you guys can stop me at any point with just any questions you have with what I've said.
I have one question as we wait to bring that up. Is the idea of going north is that you have the medical facility that's going in,
Yep.
that there's going to be, would be a draw, I think, for somebody within an apartment living within age, I guess anybody.
Mm-hmm.
And also you have the Lunds Byerly's, that these are all easily walking areas for the people that, from an apartment residential perspective. The only hesitation that I have is, and it's been brought up by a number of us, is the idea of both tire and the car wash, and, is that the right type of, call it retail mix then with residential?
Yeah. And I think when the Trident team comes up, they can probably speak a little bit more about that because they have more experience in running apartment buildings than I do. And so I don't have the answer for that per se, but I think that if you look at a lot of these mixed-use developments that have happened, there's a lot of that interaction that's happening within them. And one might think, well, is that a great place for somebody to live? And probably not for everybody, but I think some people do like to be part of an active area and be able to walk across the street to, restaurants and things of that nature. And there's probably other housing options and locations from a multifamily standpoint in Apple Valley that might offer a more kind of serene type setting and quieter setting, and you could choose that, and this would be more of an active setting, I think. So we really like the idea of it being by our retail, feel like it would be a big benefit. And you know, I think, let's see, let's just go through a few more of the issues here in terms of having different.
Mr. Chair, if I may
Oh,
interject.
please.
Before we move forward with that, this is a sketch plan.
Correct.
So we're not here for a full proposal or a full presentation of issues, merely presenting what they're looking at, what the issues are as staff finds them, and feedback. No opinions as to yes, no. And I remind
Correct.
the commission of the Continental Properties Supreme Court decision. So, you provided feedback, and no disrespect, but I just want to kind of, there's not a formal application.
Okay.
So,
Thank you.
Do you want me to keep going?
Chris, if I may.
Yeah, why not?
I think we'll be happy to address these in our future applications.
Sounds good.
All right, thank you. Yep. Yes. Mr. Commissioner, members of the Planning Commission, good evening. My name is Roger Fink. I'm Senior Vice President and one of the principals of Trident Development based in St. Cloud. Thank you for entertaining our application tonight, and thank you to Kathy and the staff for your assistance and guidance with this application process. And Chris, thank you for your comments here tonight. Also introducing Karen Bisdock, associate of mine at Trident Development. I think it was 2014 and 15 I was here last with the Remington Cove Apartments, some familiar faces, and I'm happy to be back here with the sketch plan. And also we're really honored to be invited by HJ Development to introduce apartment housing in their commercial development. We understand that's a stretch, but I think we're uniquely qualified to bring a quality, well-designed, well-thought-out housing development into this space. I say that because we recently received full approval from the city of Chaska on somewhat of a similar development that we are undertaking right now. We are pursuing a project called the Plaza at Hazeltine. It is a 112 unit, did I get that right? 4-story apartment building in an existing shopping center in Chaska, anchored by a Kohl's department store. Also, an Aldi's is there, Starbucks is there, Chipotle is there, McDonald's is there, office across the street. And then the Hazeltine National Golf Course is immediately east across the street. So we have a wide variety of uses and mixes, and we worked very carefully and very closely with the city staff to establish and design appropriate traffic flow, appropriate distinction between where the apartment parking lots is, how the outdoor space is organized so that it is not obvious that it's a public space, but more of a private space for the tenants only. And I think we really came together with a very nice plan. And a lot of those ideas, I think, can translate to this project in Apple Valley. So you're familiar with Trident Development. I was going to spend some time in giving you some background on Trident. We were formed in 2006. Our business objective has always been predominantly multifamily housing. Our market rate apartments and our assisted living buildings, I think we've done now some 25 properties within 16 different metro suburbs. So we've had a lot of experience in the metro, including Apple Valley, obviously. All of our properties are designed with the intent of owning them long-term, so quality design and maintenance-free materials and functionality is always a big, important aspect of our development. And we still own the bulk of everything that we've developed. So this would be our intent to have long-term ownership here too. All of our properties have professional third-party management, so we make sure we get qualified tenants, the rules are followed, we become good neighbors and good stewards of the neighborhood there. We think that this location will not only, as Chris was saying, energize and bring additional rooftops, if you will, families, households to the commercial district there, but it will also offer convenient housing for the employees that are working in the retail stores and the shops. So we think there's a very symbiotic relationship between having the apartment housing nearby and the shopping nearby. So it's not only convenient for those who live there to have the walkability to the grocery, to the services, to the restaurants and so forth, but also for the employees and saying, I just live so close, I barely use my car, you know. So I think it's a very natural and a very good partnership to have that. I think Kathy did a wonderful job in explaining our site design. Indeed, we tried to integrate our building, our traffic pattern, our pedestrian ways to complement the trail that's being developed there, the trailhead, and also provide pedestrian connections to the retail uses. So that we're focused on that. In terms of the parking count, I think we can be very flexible on that. We'll work together with staff to decide what's the appropriate amount of parking that we need. And I think working with HJ, we can manipulate the land area as necessary. So we think a lot of flexibility. Of course, this is still sketch plan. So the last thing I'd like to touch on is what the exterior elements of the building might look like. So with Kathy's help or Brianna's help, I can show you some images of some recent properties that we have developed, and you can see what sort of exterior materials and design that we typically use. The one you're seeing right now is a property in Shakopee we call Arison Apartments. This is a 4-story building with a pitched roof. I can't say exactly the number of units. I'm sure Karen would know, this was her project. 138? So it's a little larger than what we're proposing for Apple Valley. But the thing I wanted to point out with this particular building is this is similar to what we're considering in Apple Valley because this has not only an underground parking garage, you can see the driveway that slopes down to the parking garage door on the left-hand side of the picture. But if you also notice on the right-hand side of the picture, there's another garage door at the very end, and that takes cars into a covered parking garage space that's actually at grade. So it sits on top of the underground parking, but it sits underneath another 2 or 3 stories of parking. So we're able to accomplish a 4-story structure with covered parking 1-to-1 ratio. Normally you couldn't do that on a 4-story building. You'd have to go 3 stories to get 1-to-1 ratio underneath. So that's what I wanted to really demonstrate with this picture here. Next slide. Oh, same building? Is that right? Okay, good. Nothing more to say about that other than I just want to point out that we are very meticulous about our facade, the exterior elements. We would like to see lots of deviation in exterior plane. We like to see roof lines that have dormers or sheds, things that make a lot more architectural appeal in our apartment properties. So with that, next one. This property recently opened in Rogers, Minnesota. We call Quest Apartments. This is the front elevation of the building. Here you can see how we use very multiple bump outs and different roof design elements. Also, you can see obviously that we, in this particular property, have a variety of different colors that we integrate throughout the property and different materials. We'll have some lap siding materials, we'll have some vertical materials, we'll have some wood grain looking materials, might have some metal introduced into that. So we try to use a variety of interesting architectural materials to add a lot of interest to the building. Granted, we haven't yet examined exactly how we might design the exterior to complement the neighboring buildings. So we'll be going through that process next if we bring this project forward, is how can we complement and design our exterior building to make that fit into the neighborhood. And the next slide please. Same building, just a little different picture of that same entryway. One more unique thing about the Quest Apartments is due to the site constraints, much of our exterior amenity features are right at the front door. So you can see the umbrellas and the other space on the opposite side of the front door was really where we organized a lot of the outdoor space, the grill space, the gazebo space, and pergola, I should say. And I think there's a putting green there and some other open space. So that was really unique, and it really turned out great. Is there another slide? Yeah, okay, so this is another 4-story building, so you can get an idea of the mass size of that. This is 118 units, I believe. This is in Bozeman, Montana. Again, here we're using quite a variety of exterior materials. We have a brick material, we have some metal panels that go on here, and we have some lap siding, and some color accents, and a variety of different roof line elements happening here. All very typical of the sort of design that we typically bring for our apartment buildings. And one more slide. Again, this is the front entryway to that same property in Bozeman. You can see we try to make a prominent entry. Here we've got some flat roof designs brought in, and so you can get kind of a flavor of how we approach the architecture. Again, we would intend for the Apple Valley property to complement the neighboring commercial district, try to use some similar colors, designs, materials, and so forth to make it all fit in as best we can. I think with that, I'd be happy to stand for any questions you may have at this point. Yes, go ahead.
I was going to say, it doesn't look like there's any
Okay.
additional questions.
Very good. Well, again, thank you very much for your time and attention, your comments tonight. I thought the dialogue was very beneficial for us. We'll take that under consideration and decide if we want to come back with another plan. So, again, thanks very much.
Thank you.
The next item under other business is item 6B, review of upcoming schedule and other updates.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the commission. So your next meeting is 2 weeks from now, Wednesday, February 21st, followed by a Wednesday, March 6th meeting, council February 8th, which is tomorrow, and another meeting on the 22nd of February as well. As always, we appreciate if you could let us know if you plan to skip or be able not attend, one of those meetings well in advance. We'd love to hear from you as soon as possible. So with that, if you have any other questions, feel free to contact me after the meeting, or we can discuss anything right now.
Thank you. Could I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Brought forward by Commissioner Schindler and seconded by Commissioner Malone. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Meeting is closed.